hosts can introduce themselves. I will actually just call out your name so that we aren't talking over each other. So Alba, why don't you go ahead and do a introduction?
Yes, thank you, Amanda. Thank you, everyone, for being here today. My name is Alba Colon, and I am the Director of Competition Systems here at Hendrick Motorsports. I have been blessed of being involved in racing for more than 20-something years, and all those years, plus my years as a student, also as an SAE member. I'm very active with SAE. Thank you.
All right, great. Next, why don't we go with Dylan?
Yes, I am Dylan Conup. I'm a senior at Bradley University. I've been really involved in our Formula SAE team here. I'm looking for some good conversation today.
Great, thank you. All right, Alex, why don't you go next?
Hello, my name is Alex Rath. I'm a control system engineer at General Motors. And back in my college days, I went to Kettering University and was involved with the Formula SAE, Clean Snowmobile Challenge, and Auto Drive teams. And now in my current job, I work on the organizing committee for the Auto Drive Challenge.
Very cool, thank you. All right, last but not least, Gina.
Hi, everybody. My name is Gina Covarrubias. I used to be an aerospace engineer for a number of years. I have left the industry, and now I'm a coach for engineers. So I help engineers and STEM professionals defeat career struggles and career despair and all the things that come along with working. So I have had my fair share of failures in life, for sure. Looking forward to this conversation.
Awesome. So I thought that we could just sort of get things started by having me just ask the group a question that was submitted. And then Marcos, you are our only current attendee, so I don't want to put you on the spot too much, but you know, have some things in the back of your head as you know, maybe we're talking through this very first question. So first question is, so it's just a very general one. You know, how do you deal with the fear of failure? This person said, sometimes I find it hard to start something over the fear of the outcome. How can I get over that? So if anyone wants to just jump right in and kind of give some thoughts around that question.
I can go first.
Okay.
Yeah, this is a great question. One really useful thing that I teach people, and it might be hard to wrap your mind around this, but try not to be tied to outcomes. Put your all into it, give it your best effort, and really understand that that's the reward. The journey of learning and failing and trying again and learning, that's what life is really about. So if you could detach yourself from a specific outcome or an expectation, you will be very well off. Now, I'm not saying that's an easy thing to do, because it's not. But that is my overall answer to this question.
I would continue off of that and say that, yes, failures are a part of the experience, and that there's a lot to be learned from them, and that it happens to everybody. So just sort of take that as part of it, to deal with them as they come.
Yes, to add to that, I think that when you start in your career, and perhaps as a student, you don't want to fail, right? That's their fear. But we learn over time that failure is part of success. And many times we learn more from failure than if we are succeeding at all times. But it takes time to know that that's part of, you know, of who we are, or what we do every single day, and that you can really learn a lot from there. Keep going. But the first time that you will fail is, trust me, it's not going to be fun. But you need to get over, learn from that, and keep going, and share with others your fear, and you will see that you are not the only one that you know is afraid of failing, and you will learn that this is part of life.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with all of those. And I think like one of my favorite stories about failure is like Thomas Edison and the light bulb, because like he failed over 1,000 times on trying to make a light bulb. And he used every single one of those failures to figure out this is one way that we can't do it, but then I'll try a different way of doing it. So even though failure isn't always a good thing, sometimes it can be a good thing because you're learning a lot through it and it can help you ultimately be successful with whatever you're trying to do.
You know, and I failed to mention that Dean Case is on here, and Dean is actually a longtime member and part of his local section and is part of our industrial lecture series. So, Dean, any thoughts from you on failure?
Oh yeah, I've had some good ones. When I give my career talk, I talk about a few of them. I mean, even if you have a screw up, there's a lot to be learned from it. Sometimes I joke that with Formula and Baja, the teams that learn the most are sometimes the ones who finish in the bottom 10. They learn what they never want to repeat, and that's valuable. And better to have a mistake on a student project than in an industry project. A student one, you may get a little bit of embarrassment or a lower grade, but you're not going to get fired for it, and the company's not going to go out of business. So you can take some risks. My biggest early failure was we decided we were competing in Mini Baja, and we had this bright idea. We were at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. We thought we could save money if we hosted the event to not have to go to Texas. And so we thought, we'll save a week of time and we'll do all this. And we discovered organizing the event was a lot more work than building the car. So when everyone showed up, they assumed that since we hosted it, we had the unfair advantage of designing the car to the track. And we proved that that was not true because we were still welding on the car the first day of the competition. We'd done 0 testing, and we finished dead last on our own event. And what happened was, it's kind of embarrassing, but the dean of engineering came to us afterwards and apologized, saying he had no idea the level of support the other schools had. So the year after I graduated was the first time we got money from the school for our project. So I joked that it took public embarrassment on our own campus to do it, but so that was the first example of, even when there's failure, there's oftentimes a silver lining or a great life lesson in it.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. Yeah, I think it's, for me too, when I think of failure, I think it's willing to be vulnerable too in a lot of moments and take risks. Like you're saying, Dean, like public embarrassment got you where you needed to be, but, but sometimes that's a good thing. So yeah, absolutely. So I see we also have Kyle on here. So Kyle or Marcos, do you guys have questions for the hosts?
Hello. Yeah, I'm trying to still get my camera and everything situated here. Just the connection's just been a little bit challenging for me, so just give me 1 second, please.
No worries. If you can't get your camera on, it's no big deal.
How about just what is one of the biggest failures that you've experienced to the group, and how did you get back on the horse?
Let me go ahead.
I'll speak sort of from a student's perspective, and even just applying to careers and internships can be just seeming like failure after failure. Because there's, a lot. If you apply to a lot of positions and you sometimes don't get them, or you don't get an interview or whatnot, it can be frustrating and disappointing. But as with all failures, the key is to just keep coming back at it, to keep working at it, keep putting yourself out there, and eventually things will fall where they're supposed to be.
I think that Dylan is right. I think that everybody here has experience applying for a job that didn't get. So that's not an easy one. I can also sympathize with what Dean said about my first Formula SAE competition. It was so many things that went wrong. that in some way we felt that we failed, but we realized later to bring a team that was pretty much from the country that was not too much into racing, and to get to compete and go to every event. Doesn't matter that we couldn't finish some of them. It was a success, but we learned a lot from that. Also, I wanted to share one. You know, working in racing several weeks ago as a team. We failed on an event. We did something completely opposite of what the other race teams did, and it proved that we did not do the right thing as a team, in the race. So it was embarrassing. Just looking at some of the comments on social media were like, how did Hendrick Motorsports went in that complete different direction? So imagine how difficult was that. But the beauty was, you know, it's easy to be a Monday morning quarterback and say, you know, what you should have done and so on. But as a group, we analyzed and we went through all the systems to realize how did that specific event happen and what we learned from it. And it took a lot to be honest with each other. We believe that we win, and we win as a team all together, and we lose all together as a team. But we went to every system and learned to make sure we don't commit that mistake or failure again. But I just want, what I want to say at the end is, don't, you know, everybody goes, you know, even the most successful teams or groups or people go through experiences, and they learn from those ones, and make sure that you don't commit that failure or mistake again. In that way, you continue succeeding. So don't think that this is only a student deal. It happens to all of us.
Actually, can I add one about Alba? I was there when she competed in Formula SAE. I was a judge. I have no idea where her team finished, but everyone was aware of her, and we spotted her talent. Like, she's going places. So it didn't really matter where the team finished. The talent was still obvious. And I think that's one of the things that you can understand, that when you go to these competitions, the resources vary so dramatically from school to school that you may or may not have any hope of a top 10 finish, but you can still end up with amazing career successes out of it. And, you know, the judges are there to spot talent and people that they want to work with. So, you know, that's something that you may think that you failed at whatever your goal was, but the goal should be showcasing your talent in front of people who can hire you, because that's what the competitions are about. And one just other little thing, you know, Alden mentioned, you know, Hendrick Motorsports is obviously a giant in the sport, but think back even to Penske Racing. Penske, one of the most successful teams in all of IndyCar and other series. You know, back in 1994, they failed to qualify for the Indy 500, both cars, and no one ever thought that was even possible. So even Penske Racing, who's won like 18 Indy 500, can still have a failure. But you know, back the next year they were fully on board and you know, competitive.
I think that's actually a really interesting point, Dean, is that, you know, when we think about these competitions, that the only goal shouldn't be to win, right? It should be, well, I don't want to list the goals because I haven't been in it, but could you maybe list a few of like the goals that you think they should keep in mind other than just winning?
Well, when I talk to students, I ask them, if you have two choices, would you like to win the competition and have no job offers, or finish in 25th and have 5 job offers? I'm more interested in working with the students who are looking at it with the job offers. If they become so obsessed with the racing aspect, I mean, you know, I've been involved in motorsports just like Alba, and there you're paid to get the job done and win. But even that, you can still, on the business side, have a great success at the track even if you don't win the race. You could still dominate the media aspect of it, or other portions of the competition. And so I think that students need to look at it, you know, they are building the brand for their school. One of the things I get frustrated with is a lot of the cars, they spent so much time thinking that this is a mini Formula One car and they have to have all these sponsor stickers on it. And I look at the car and I can't even tell what the school was. And that's not a good thing. You want to focus on making sure everyone walks away. In 1991, everyone knew the Puerto Rican school in Alba. No one remembers where they finished, but they knew it was like there was a talented group of students with a deep passion who were going to go far. That's far more valuable than where they finished. So everyone just assumes they did well because they left a very positive impression. One of my coworkers at Motivo, he tells the story of when he went back to school at Western Washington University, their team was in complete disarray. And rather than going to the competition with a bad car, they went on recon. They took 15 students to the competition with no car, just to observe the competition. 10 of them ended up with job offers based on conversations they had with judges. Proof that, not only do you not have to have a winning car, you don't even have to necessarily have a car to have success out of some of these competitions. The SAE is beyond just, engaging with your local section, finding the mentors who are close to you. That's, I think, some of the successes. Finding mentors that can help you avoid some of these failures. You're going to have them. That's, part of life. It's just what do you learn from it? How do you hopefully not repeat the same mistakes? I mean, I would have a long list of screw-ups if I listed them all. So.
Well, since you mentioned the mentoring, I'm going to do a shameless quick plug for the new mentor program that we have. So if you haven't seen that, that is also on Member Connection. So you can go to the mentor tab at the top and sign up for the new online mentoring program. So a lot of you would be great mentors. So if you haven't done that yet, go ahead and sign up. And for those of you watching, sign up to be a mentee. It takes a couple minutes just to sign up, and then the system will either match you with someone that is a close match to what you're looking for, or you can find someone yourself based on, your own searching through the mentor list that we have. So Marcos, were you going to ask a question? I think I saw your hand go up. Yeah, please go ahead.
No, I was just saying thank you to the amazing responses. That's pretty good. Thank you.
Oh, absolutely. I'm so glad that you, are getting value out of this. That is the whole point. So if something does come up, that you want to ask a question, just raise your hand. So anyone else? Kyle, do you have any other questions you wanted to ask, or I can go ahead and ask one of the questions that was submitted?
Actually, I do have a question in that it was because I had a little bit of time to think about it and reflect upon
Sure.
my time as being president of Formula Hybrid SAE at Wayne State. And I think the biggest challenge from the organizational development side is what are some effective strategies for leadership recruiting? Because like a lot of the students that I had come in that said that they could do a lot of the things that that they were capable of, and it wasn't really as such. So I was just curious on your guys' feedback because I came in with only one other student and developed our race team from the ground up. And while I'm not sure exactly where the team is now, I still I know it's still kind of a challenge that students still reach out to me for.
Yeah, I guess at least from my experience on SAE teams, I think that's one of the hardest things to do because for a lot of people, you're not getting paid for it. A lot of schools, they don't even give you credit for it. So it's basically something that you're saying, I'm going to spend my free time that I could, be doing other stuff with to be on this team. And I think part of it is you have to have people that have like passion to work on it and like an inner drive. But I think as leaders also, if you have a team that has really good like project management and leadership, it makes it a lot easier to get people to come in and stay in the team. Because I've seen a lot of teams, or I guess a lot of times in my own experience on our teams where we'd have like, 100 freshmen come in the first day and we'd never like really build good personal relationships with those people. And we just send out like a weekly email saying, hey, come out if you want to come out. and a lot of times people don't respond to that. But I found it works a lot better if you like get to know people, get to know their names, find out their phone number, and try and talk to them like outside of the garage. Be like, hey, do you want to come, hang out with us or help us work on this thing on the car? And I think if you have like small things for people to work on when they're starting out, that helps them build that interest in the team. And then in the future, they can get to the point where they're figuring out what needs to be done and doing it on their own.
I'd also say, I think you want to recruit from beyond just the core group of motorsports enthusiasts. Too many teams I see that it's just, a bunch of, young adults who grew up watching Formula One on TV and think that this is all it is. And they have sometimes a little bit of a dismissive attitude towards anyone who doesn't have that same level of knowledge. It's a turn off to others. I highly recommend you do outreach to SWE, SHIP, NESB, and other groups to see if you can welcome them in. So that, you need diversity on multiple levels, not the least of which is just class level. But if you have a team of all seniors, you can do great this year, and then next year this all goes to pot because there was no transfer. They mentioned the SAE mentorship program. You should have your own internal mentorship program to where the seniors are basically training their replacements. Because what you'll see with some schools is they can go from top 10 to bottom 10 in 1 year. The really great schools are the ones that have continuity.
Thank you, Dean, and thank you, Alex. I really appreciate that because I think that's been probably, and I actually took that direction, Dean, actually because coming from a business school background in that first, we're actually kind of combination both the business and engineering school. That was one of my directions that I wanted to focus on was recruiting specifically in the business school for leadership, but due to the challenges within the team, actually taking the role, the responsibility, not just as president and co-captain, but as project manager and other subsystems lead in that. So for me, it was the sort of time for time management, I guess. But I think you did put a lot of things in perspective in that because that's one of the things that I didn't really directly try to recruit directly through like organizations as NESB at Wayne State. We have different like an engineering student senate, and that was a lot of oftentimes where we just the presidents from the different organizations go there just to give updates and that. But it wasn't so much to be specifically recruiting through the different student organizations that may support in different ways that are outside of the traditional college engineering norms and that. So that like all this is gold, and I really do appreciate this. So thank you.
The one caveat, though, I'd say make sure you come across that you're not trying to steal membership from another group. That anybody who's a member of another group, SAE would be a supplement. We're different than an ASME or an IEEE because we're focused on industry, not on a discipline, or an affinity group like SWE, SHIP, or NESB. And so, for a lot of people, they should probably be a member on the student level of 2 or 3 organizations to figure out what the best niche is. And quite frankly, all of them offer scholarship opportunities and things. But I get frustrated that how few people, relatively speaking, I think, apply for some of the SAE scholarships. But
Oh, I didn't even realize that. I know like some of the scholarships because we set in place like the Blue Oval Scholarship from Ford. That was one of the things like I think one of the first things that we established in place. So just to get like an initial scholarship for like a first or second year student, just to get interest in that. Now I know within the department we were trying to get like a course actually designed specifically through like the engineering technology to have like the for the race team and that, and then provide credits for it. But it wasn't something that became sustainable. So yeah, I think that yeah, it's just all gold, and I certainly look forward to passing a lot of this information, even from everybody else that's following up with the questions and that. So I'm glad that I was able to get everything situated and enjoying the call. And good to see you again, Alva.
Going off of that, I think it's important to note, like at a small school like Bradley, there's only so many engineering students. So if each club tries to have their own group, not sort of mingle amongst each other's, then that makes each group very small. So really trying to encompass everybody and allowing that intergroup membership. And then not even just the mechanicals, but then also reaching out to the electrical engineers, the industrial engineers, because sometimes those people can be even more helpful than a pure mechanical.
You know, one other thing, Kyle, everybody in the team is very important. I don't know if you know about this, but it was several years ago, Dean, I think there was one of the teams at the Formula SAE competition. Cannot remember, it was 2 or 3 years ago. They couldn't participate in the endurance because they arrived less than a minute late to the start of their spot in the event. So at the end of the day, wow, they would have had somebody that in logistics, knew when everything opens, when everything closes, what is my position and everything. This didn't have anything to do with how they built the car. They couldn't able to do something because they failed the basics on logistics. I think that many teams fail because program management more than anything else. So it's just every position is very critical, everything.
All right. Does anybody have any other questions?
Oh, but thank you, Dylan. Thank you, Alba.
All right. I will just continue down the line then.
I can chime in, Amanda, actually.
Yeah, absolutely.
If we don't mind backtracking, I think this is worth mentioning. Getting back to the question that Marcos answered, what is your biggest failure? For me, that's very easy because my biggest failure actually led to a depression for me in my young adult life. So long story short, my dream was to become an aerospace engineer. I made it happen. I worked very hard and it was very difficult, and it took me a long time to graduate. And while working at my first job, I actually completed my master's degree in mechanical engineering. And you would think that when you graduate with your master's degree, that would be a very special time, a time to celebrate and be happy. And I couldn't have been more unhappy in my life by the time I graduated with my master's, because in my mind, I had told myself, I had made the decision, this is not what I want. This engineering life is not what I thought it was going to be. It's not making me happy. So as a first generation graduate from college, on the outside to everybody, they thought I had it made. I had a great job and a great industry. I was making my dreams come true. And inside, inside I was dying. So that led to my first depression. And what I told myself when I graduated with my master's is that I'm a failure. I am the biggest failure in life, because here everybody thinks I have it made and I'm so happy and things are great, but I was very unhappy inside. And so the lesson I had to learn the very hard way, and it took me a few years later to understand this, is that I created this label calling myself a failure. It was completely a mental construct. I created it in my mind. I labeled myself as a failure, and that's what I believed. So it took me a few years to actually learn and understand I wasn't a failure at all. I was just going along on life's journey, and I was making decisions that I thought were the best for myself. And so labeling myself, putting myself in this bucket called failure, it was a very self-destructive way to treat myself. So for anybody watching, I just want you to be aware that failure it's only a label. You can look at something as a failure, or you can look at something as, well, I learned from this experience. So I wanted to share that and just kind of forewarn you to be very careful what you call a failure. And I will be jumping off, Amanda, just as a reminder, in 10 minutes to get ready for my next call. So if I jump off, I don't want to be rude, but I just want to let you know.
Oh, no worries.
as a
Thank
reminder.
you. And
Okay.
and thank you for that, Gina. I think we can create these things in our heads very easily and create expectations that, you know, we think we need to live up to. So thank you for sharing that story. I appreciate that. Anybody else want to share any stories or have any other questions?
I think, yeah,
I
being,
wanted to say something, just really quick. I worked the break area, at the Formula SAE competition, and all the students always ask, how many times have you had a car going to the same event, trying to pass the break event? And one time we had a team that took 53 times to go to that area to pass the break event. Unfortunately, they did not pass. They did not pass, and they went home without going to any of the events. Interesting enough, they learned a lot, and the year after, they were the first team going to the break area. They made sure that they were going to all the stickers, students here that have seen a Formula SAE, right, and Bach and so on, to go to all the stickers. They learn not only how to do the system, but how it works, and they passed with flying colors the next year. And they said that whole experience made them much better engineers and much better teammates. They learned how to work better together. So you can see how, one thing that we classify as failure, like Gina said, how it helped them to be much better professionals.
I was just going to make a comment on Gina's point. You do have to be careful about your mindset because it's easy. You know, depression is much more common than you think. We all have it, doubt, and I struggle sometimes with just anxiety because it's like, what's going to happen here? And I think, just be, I guess, take some comfort that everyone has some of these issues. If there's someone who has zero depression, zero anxiety, I have yet to meet them. Or they hide it well. So, we're all human, so we all have that. So.
I really appreciate like this part of the conversation too myself, because I do think that, we can tend to want to present ourselves a certain way. And I'm sure I'm not an engineer. I like to say I have engineering blood because my dad's an engineer. He's a mechanical engineer. But, I know that it can be hard when you're in a professional setting to want to present a certain, you know, just way about yourself. And I think it's important to know, like you said, Dean, we're all human. And I always like to think when I'm struggling with someone at work, or maybe we're, we're kind of butting heads, that I like to remember that they also have maybe things going on at home and their personal life that maybe they're struggling with. So just remembering that, who you see at work might not be the full picture, and also to give people grace with some of that. So just my own opinion on a couple things. Okay, so any other thoughts on any of that, or anything else that anyone wanted to bring up? We have a good 22 minutes left. All right, well, I'll throw out a question then. Let's see. I thought this was a really good one. What is the best way that I can avoid getting overwhelmed when I feel I've disappointed, AKA failed a customer? Example, not meeting promised deadlines, prices, or quality of service. Anybody want to go first on that?
I think a lot of that comes from the expectations you set beforehand. And as you go through your career and your industry, you'll become more experienced and better at, setting those standards before the project begins. But then as you're going through it, and maybe you missed a deadline, or you didn't post the price that you want. I'm really going back and learning, using that failure as a learning experience. I'm figuring out what happened, and then using that to figure out what you can do for next time. And then not only, changing what you can still for that same experience, but then again, using it next time.
All right. Thanks, Dylan. Let's see.
I'll just add real quick to what
Oh,
Dylan
yeah, thank you.
noted. Excellent answer, Dylan. I completely agree. I would take it one step further, and I would say that the more transparent you are with your customers, with your colleagues, with your management, the less surprised they're going to be if something falls through the cracks or if something doesn't go the way you expect it to. So I think transparency is key.
Yeah, yes, I agree with both of them. Communication to keep, you know, nobody likes to, once again, nobody likes to fail, nobody likes to be late. But if you are very clear and communicate, and it's about keeping everybody aware. And, I have learned that in the career that I have, nobody likes to hear no, but no is a very acceptable answer, and it's a much better answer than not answering at all. So be clear, be upfront about this is the situation where we cannot meet the deadline. Of course, don't make it a habit because that will not talk good about you. But if a situation like that happen, be honest. I think that that's your best tool.
Great stuff, guys. I actually have my own question. I was taking some notes as you guys were talking, and it occurred to me, the importance of leadership. I think someone mentioned that along the way, but what kind of role do you think leadership plays in failure? How does someone, I guess, do a good job of being a leader and sort of making failure an okay result in a way, and how do you become a leader like that? Like, do you guys have any examples from being on the different teams or seeing different teams have great leaders, whether that's the competition teams or in your work life? Did I give you a really tough one?
No, I wanted somebody else to answer first.
I can go first.
Go ahead, Jean.
I'll get it started. I'll get it warmed up. So I would like to chime in before I jump off, and I would actually say that part of leadership's job is to create a safe space for their employees to be able to fail, so that the employees can actually learn from it and go out and figure out what the actual answer should have been or could have been, or what they did wrong, what are their takeaways, instead of blaming or pointing the finger. I think a good leadership trait is someone who allows people the space to be able to fail and learn from it so everybody can move forward.
I don't think that I can say anything else after that. No, I think that that's great, and that's one thing I tell my team. I said, please let me know before it gets so big or somebody else, is going to affect what we're doing. Feel free to let us know, and we will figure out the answer of how to resolve an issue. So it's our job to, like Gina said, it's our job to let them feel, and for them to feel comfortable letting us know. And trust me, it's not easy. It's not easy, but it's part of the deal. It's part of what we're going through. So, Gina, that was a perfect answer. So I don't have anything more to add to that, but that was great. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And one more question that I had too from a competition side of the house. What are your thoughts on, advice that you would give to new teams starting out? Because I can only assume that they would be very concerned about failure, and, so any advice to brand new teams?
I think I'll start out on that one if you don't mind. Pick the right competition. if you don't have the resources to do Formula SAE, do Baja. If you don't have the resources to do Baja, do error design, or making sure that you can finish or you can achieve what your goal is, which is showcasing your talent. Um, I had a great success with mentoring a student a couple of years ago. Went to a very small school, much smaller than Bradley even, and ultimately I mentored her to build a car for the $2,000 challenge run by a non-SAE competition. She's now working for the Arrow McLaren SP IndyCar team. But it was all launched by picking a project that was within the scope of what they could do. Because I see some teams, they'll say, "Oh, we got to build a formula car." It's like that takes a lot of resources, just shop space and money and everything else. And I think sometimes they bite off more than they can handle. There's a competition out there for everybody, but it may not necessarily be formula. So that would be my advice. And then here again, reach out to these other groups. Don't have this cavalier attitude of, we're mechanical engineers, we can do everything. No, you can't. You need the EEs, you need the business majors. You want a diverse team if you want to really succeed, because you won't operate in most companies in a silo with just mechanical engineers. And that's been the mainstay of SAE for decades. But even SAE has gotten much more inclusive to other folks who just are involved with technology and things, product planners and stuff who may come from a business background, but they're intimately involved with the technology of the vehicle. So I think you should start that at the earliest level you can of a diverse cross-functional team. So that's what my starting advice would be.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with what Dean said entirely. And I think another big part too is don't necessarily just view these competitions as engineering competitions, because like one of the biggest parts of them is project management. And I think a lot of SAE teams that I've seen sort of brush off the project management portion of it, and then they start, missing deadlines, or they don't even have deadlines to miss. And then they end up at the competition, welding together their car at the competition or putting their engine in the car at the competition, which like I've personally experienced myself, and it's not a place you want to be in. I know if you have like really good project management and you set good deadlines and you stick to those deadlines, or if you miss them, you figure out a plan to try and get to as close to them as you can, you end up doing a lot better, I think.
Yes, one thing that I do at the competition, yes, I go as a judge and so on, but I also like to go as a recruiter. And like an example, if I see a team fail and they need to go back to their paddock and fix something, I go and follow to see what they are doing. First of all, how they are managing the situation, who becomes the leader of who managing the situation, and how they are working with each other, because those are skills that you have them, you don't have them, you can learn. But I always look about how you react to your issue and how you try to fix it. Other things, I believe, of course, I want somebody with great technical skills, but I prefer somebody that has the right cultural fit and the high behavior, and we can teach them. We can enhance their technical skills. But I have been in competitions where we have seen both things. We have seen people that are rude at you, and it's not your, I always said, okay, it's not my fault that your car broke, okay, but suddenly it becomes your fault that the car broke. And I think that I see some people that smiling here, like they have seen that, right? But again, it's just how you behave with others. On all our jobs, most of the jobs you're going to be dealing with other people. In these competitions, you learn all those soft skills that are so important. It doesn't matter what we do, technically speaking, what jobs we get. And that's what we do. We spend a lot of time watching people, watching what they do, how they react. And from there, most of the time we don't choose the team that won. Most of the time we choose people that went to adversity and how they handled the adversity.
I think that's a really so valid to, make that comment, Alba, about their behavior and how they treat each other, and that you guys are just you're watching for that kind of stuff. So you're not. It's similar to what Dean was saying earlier. You're watching for other things besides whether they win the competition. Have you seen more often than not that the students understand that part, that you guys are watching for other types of behaviors, or do you think most of the time they do just have it in their mind that they need to win, or that it's all about the, like Alex said, don't just look at it as an engineering competition? Do you think right now that's kind of the way they view it? Or do you think they get that they also need to make sure that they're, treating each other well, being a good leader through their attitude and their behaviors?
I would like the younger members of this of this conversation to hear from them. I will tell you before they answer, I will tell you a sad story that I went to a formal SAE competition this year, and Dean will tell you, and some of the past students here, they have seen me at the competition. But I went at a competition this year, and a student went and asked me, "Can I talk to the captain of this area?" By the way, we are identified with a specific colors, all that kind of stuff. And I say, "How can I help you?" He said, "No, I want to talk to the captain of the area." And I said, "Yeah, it's me. How can I help you? How can I help you, please?" And this student said the following: "I doubt you are the captain of this area." And he went to the older guy that was in the area competing, in the area, judging, and went and asked that person. And no, I just saw that. I just trust me. When you get to be where I am in racing, you have seen everything. I would say, but I just saw him going to the other gentleman, ask, no problem, and the gentleman said, "Hey, you need to go and ask Alba. She is the captain." And he did not want to talk to me at all. He just wanted to figure out, no idea why, but I just was like, and at the end, I will have helped them. And by the way, I decided to be the bigger person, and I helped the team because I didn't let one person define what the team, was there about.
Oh no, Alba, for some reason we lost you. We can't hear you
Oh,
anymore.
no, I say, but I was in, I decided to do the right thing for the whole team because one person shouldn't define a team.
Sure, sure.
But again, it just was the behavior, and what really was for me frustrating was to see the behavior of what was going on. But again, that's not everybody, and you cannot say that the whole team is like that, because one person acted like that. But again, at the end of the day, in this competition, we are there to help each other. I have seen judges that go and get in the car to help the student, because at the end of the day, it's not about winning, it's about learning. We want them to learn. We want them, at the end of the day, we are not going to ask you finish first or last in the competition. If you can answer for me, "Hey, we finished last in the competition and it was because X, Y, and Z, and this is what I learned," that for me has more value than the person that finished first and doesn't have any clue, cannot explain what happened. But I would like to hear from others, please.
Yeah, I can speak to this, Alba, personally because I have to say, that I'd say the biggest challenge in terms of the organizational development that I had in the time-consuming part was doing the leadership recruiting. But as in terms of the behavior of the group, the whole dynamic changed because as the team started actually growing, there was absolutely a lack of leadership from faculty advisors. Every time I reached out when trying to do any sort of acquisition, any sort of purchase, it was just absolutely wasn't there. And that completely changed the whole entire dynamic of our team from each co-captain on wanting to submit for different, for different parts in that when we don't even have the faculty advisor to really support in that sort of aspect. So I felt that personally, and seeing the behavior change of the whole entire team, because it wasn't with not having the support, and then only me putting in the resources, getting the budget, developing, doing all the administrative stuff, working with the college engineering, and then actually, submitting for the competition and going through that aspect. But yeah, yeah, I felt that personally, and I can see like even like if we went to the competition ourselves as a team, it would have been even more of a challenge just based on the lack of leadership. Because me personally, like I understand, and it kind of goes back to even the last question, understanding how to really work with the teams and utilize the different, leadership traits in that, and particularly like when to be a relationship-based leader, when to leave it up to the group, and that understand, leave the innovation to the group, like you said, or Gina said, giving the group room for failure in that. And then I know how to switch it up to be a task-based leader when we're starting to hit that deadlines and that, and ultimately have to make those decisions for those submissions and that. So for me, it's like, being situational based, but just there's that when you don't have that lack of ultimately the leadership above from the university and that, like it changed the whole entire dynamic, and it was just awful. Everybody's behavior changed, and ultimately I became the scapegoat at the end, and that they used me as the as the way to transition from the from that particular competition.
One thing you might contemplate for schools where the faculty advisors are not engaged or great. I mean, when I was a student, I asked our faculty advisor why he was our faculty advisor, because he had no interest in cars. And he said he had a choice between being on the parking lot committee or SAE faculty advisor. He thought we would be less paperwork. And he was disappointed he was wrong. But I've visited a lot of schools, and I was really encouraged by one school in particular where the faculty wasn't engaged, but the local section was. They basically had replaced a faculty advisor with regular industry advisors. And so for those schools who, if your faculty isn't engaged, if you are lucky enough to be in the SAE section that has strong leadership there, that can be a suitable replacement. Because, you have to keep in mind the faculty advisor usually isn't being paid anymore. They're doing it just out of either avoiding the parking lot committee or because they like cars and the students. So there's got to be, I've seen too often where there's a lack of respect for the faculty advisor and they ignore what the faculty is telling them, which is usually trying to help them avoid making mistakes. So, that's something to also be, we also need to have a session on the care and feeding of your faculty advisor, because that's what I think blends it tends to lead to very strong consistency. I think Alba would agree with me. There's certain schools you always want to go see because you just know they're going to be strong every year. They're going to be doing something interesting. And that's not a function of those individual students that year because they change. It's a 25% rotation every year. But if you know the faculty or the local section is involved, there are certain schools that we just gravitate to because of that.
Yeah, thank you, Dean. I think that was amazingly helpful, especially when I do pass along the information that because I think that was the biggest challenge. If we did have the industry advisors as, to replace our faculty advisor, that would have been a whole different, situation in that. But even here, because the my local chapter is Detroit chapter, I was, actually was a part of their board last month as a guest member to really, and I know they have at least 2,000 to 3,000 members. So I know this would be something I can't actually wait to connect with Roxanne and Stephanie over there and then really get this ball rolling and see how we can really support, especially with the development, if the Formula Hybrid SAE team still plans to continue on, I certainly can see the opportunity within the current membership at the Detroit chapter and then being able to supplement and then put something more sustainable in place. So thank you, Dean. And the whole entire panel. Thank you, everybody.
Okay, well, we have 2 minutes left. So I thought if anybody has some brilliant story that they would like to share about, someone overcoming failure or witnessing that within a team, does anybody have any last call sort of stories? If not, that's okay too. Alex, I'm actually going to pick on you. I just decided in this moment. What, what about with the new auto drive challenge? I mean, surely since that is a new event, you have seen some examples of overcoming failure, or even, if you want to do the reverse of that, like some successes that have been, celebrated learnings. Anything
Yeah,
off the top of your head?
That's a great question. I think AutoDrive's a really interesting thing because like when I was on the AutoDrive team the first year that they had the competition, and it was, I guess, a big struggle for me coming from like a Formula SAE and Clean Snowmobile Challenge background, because those teams at my university were very well developed. We had like pretty good organizational structure and a lot of like institutional knowledge, if you will, from like people on our team from previous years. And when we went to AutoDrive, it was like a completely blank slate. Almost, I was the only person on the team that had like done other SAE competitions, and pretty much everybody was new to the competition. And I think we definitely struggled a lot during that first year because we were trying to figure out how to organize ourselves and how to put it together. But I think throughout all of that, probably the biggest things that I learned are, one, like having really good project management is really important, which I think I mentioned like once or twice, because I think one of the big struggles that our team had with that is since we didn't have that structure beforehand, I guess nobody really took it on themselves to build that structure. And it really showed in how we did in that first year. And I think the other thing is trying to not bite off more than you can chew. Like with all the competitions, you can go really far down rabbit holes to build something that's like insanely technologically advanced, and then find out at the last minute that it doesn't work, and to fix it, you need more time than there is to fix it. So I think if you focus on, figuring out what the minimum viable like product is and trying to get to that, and then if you have more time, you can go more deeply into those rabbit holes or side projects, you can.
Awesome. See, good thing I picked on you. All right. Well, I don't want to take up any more of your time unless someone has something really pressing that they want to make sure that they say or ask. Going once, going twice. All right. Well, thank you again so much. This was super valuable. Even for me, who isn't an engineer, I have learned a lot just for my professional life. So I appreciate it so much. And thank you also for doing the online chat. So looking forward to the other questions that will come through that way. So you guys have a great rest of your afternoon. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Amanda.
Bye.
You too.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
everybody. Have a good day.